I will not die easily. I am a warrior.
Okay, so welcome to Famous When I'm Dead. We're a podcast where we talk with artists on what it takes to thrive while we're still above ground. And today we're going to talk with Nathan Nordstrom, aka Sloke One, internationally known graffiti artist, award-winning. Even you're a Guinness Book World Record holder, yeah? I didn't know that. Man, I had such a hard time going through your Instagram page because your stuff you have just so much fucking rad stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Cool, man. So welcome to the podcast, the video podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So how you been? It's been a long time. Last time we were in Prague.
Yeah, I think it was almost 2 years ago the last time I saw you.
Yeah.
You were on the square doing your thing, and you made that nice caricature of me, and I still have it. It's in my studio.
Well, I'm gonna call you out a little bit here because I'm gonna put this on the screen.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see it, but right now what I'm showing is your very first post on Instagram. So this is like one of your first paintings up there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think it was like 8 years ago.
Do you remember it?
Yeah, we were getting ready. We did a show in Barcelona for the MTN Gallery. And it was a group show I curated and put together. And that's when I first started doing kind of abstract geometric stuff, about 8 years ago. I just wanted to do something new other than graffiti, even though those were painted with aerosol.
Oh.
And for me, it's a natural transition from graffiti to abstract.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's the same picture you got up. But yeah, that was good times, man. I miss Europe. I wish I was there right now.
Oh yeah,
this still in quarantine.
Yeah. We're starting to come out of it now, finally. But yeah, the effects have been pretty devastating on my business. How are you doing?
Man, it changed everything. I had work lined up for a good 5 months, and then the bottom fell out. So I've been lucky to land a couple of gigs that weren't canceled, maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple little small art jobs here and there. But yes, the shelter in place is definitely, it's changed everything for me. I have to get creative in terms of generating new revenue streams. You know, I feel like, the good news is, of course, you can always sell online. I did that. I downgraded from bigger canvases to smaller canvases. I sold a couple online, but to answer your question, oh man, it's completely changed. To be honest with you, I don't. It's interesting because being an artist for a living, I never know where my paycheck's going to come from.
Right.
And I always say that if I had a nickel for every time somebody wanted art, maybe I'd be rich and famous. But the reality is, it's all talk until I get a deposit check. And as you know, with art, people change their mind all the time, and that's understandable. So with the shelter in place happening, it really reinforced that. In other words, no control, no security. So for me, the shelter in place, because I think y'all shut down before us. I'm here in Austin, and so we shut down about March 15th. March 6th is when everything started to kind of like dominoes.
Yeah, you guys, the
jobs
U.S. was late, really late.
Yeah. Oh, we're paying the price. We've already reopened and cases are skyrocketing again. So I've definitely quarantined. It's hard not to be around people sometimes, especially when everybody is out. I don't know what's going to happen here. I think I don't think it was wise to open so soon, but they did. And now we're seeing a second wave. We've hit record cases since the beginning in the last couple of days.
Is that just in Texas or?
In Austin, yeah. In Austin, Travis County. And so, I'm being careful, but, I can't live my life indoors. It's been really interesting the past 3.5 months. A lot of things in my personal life have changed. I lost some people, I've lost about 10 people since January.
Oh my God, sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, one from COVID, other from various things. And so I had a hard time creating March and April. The money was gone, the girl was gone, my friends were gone. And here I was in the house, and I'm like, well, I got all this time, now I can create. And the creativity, there was just a lot of grief and loss.
Yeah.
First there was shock, then there was anger, and then there was grief, and then there was acceptance.
And was that just coming from all of the stuff combined?
Yeah, romance, finance, death. Of course, death being the hardest one because I've never lost 10 people in 2.5 months. I've lost people before. So I got to this place. I fell into a depression. I didn't know it at the time, but I was like, man, be grateful. And I started changing my attitude. I started checking up on my elderly friends. I started checking up on friends and family.
Yeah.
And that old saying, man, if you want to get out of yourself, go help somebody. And not that was the sole purpose to get out of myself. It was just like, yo, you need to think about other people. Everybody's affected by this.
Yeah.
Not just you. There's people that lost way more than me.
Yeah.
There's businesses closing down left and right. So, long story short, it really helped me cope with my loss by helping other people and being a service. And then slowly, I started to, baby steps, I started to paint again. It's not like I took off too much from painting, but like I started to get back into my art, and I started to realize, like, look, as much as this sucks, depending on how you want to look at it, it is a chance to reinvent and recreate. And most importantly, you're still breathing. You ain't got COVID as far as you know, so be grateful.
Yeah.
I got shelter. I got a roof over I got, some food in the fridge. I got my health. I was downtown painting some boards on the businesses that were boarded up. And, my heart goes out to the homeless people here at this time because, they ain't got jack. And so it's all perspective. And of course, it's having to go through the process of loss and grief, but at the same time, art was there. And that's why we say, graffiti art saved my life. And even though I do other types of art besides graffiti, it's all art to me. And so art to me has been, once again, has been a really big release and savior in this situation. It's hot as hell down here right now. So it's all about painting in the shade or painting at night for me. But at the same time, to be able to get out and paint has truly been a blessing.
Yeah, that's definitely something that's helped me a big time is I started this podcast actually, so that was one attempt to kind of be social and share people's experiences with other artists. And also, I made a couple of videos about what I do to keep my head up and how to do live streaming on with Facebook. So yeah, that's definitely the formula for me too. I can definitely relate to that, and especially with the gratitude stuff. Every morning just listing all of the stuff that I have to be grateful for. And it's funny because I only really do that when things are tough. when things are going well, it's harder for me to like list all these things I'm grateful for. But man, there's just so much. It's like it's you know I don't like to compare, but you kind of can't help it in these times. And you're right, man. I mean, we have so much, just so much, man. Just the fact that we're like breathing and we have food in the refrigerator and a house, because there's so many people out there that were just on the edge. I mean, if this would have happened 4 years ago, I wouldn't have had money to pay the rent. I just figured out how to manage my finances 2.5, 3 years ago. So like now I have a safety net, but before, so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful about the timing too. So let's talk about your beginnings, man, because usually graffiti artist isn't like, a college degree. So how'd you get going with it? Let's talk about the beginning.
I got a degree from the Sidewalk University, the School of Hard Knocks. It's funny. I've always been drawn since I was a kid, and on my dad's side, there's a long list of artists. My dad was an artist. My grandmother was an artist. My dad was more of a technical illustrator, but he could draw anything. And my dad was really drawn to the machines of war, like tanks and ships and airplanes. My dad was in the Air Force, and for a short time, and so he would reference these books. And when they do the technical illustrations, like
the exploded diagrams.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, those are cool. Yeah,
he would copy that. And that's pretty intense.
He would just sit down and copy, like.
Yeah, man, he would just draw it. He wouldn't trace it. He'd just look at it and draw it.
Oh, that's cool.
Rest in peace, man. But he was my first influence when it came to art. But my father had 3 kids to raise, and so art at that time, let's face it, times have changed in some ways. You could possibly make a living doing art today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Back then, maybe if you worked for a big corporation or you were a graphic or technical illustrator, but it's changed. And so he had to raise a family along with my mother, and he had to find something more steady. And so for him, art was always secondary, even though that's what he really wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I would mimic whatever my father was drawing. And then later I got into Star Wars. I was, in 79, Star Wars was the big thing. And then, later ninjas, whatever I was into at the time, like Japan. I went through a Asia period where it was like I was just drawn to, I was taking martial arts and, whatever I was into, I would try to translate on paper.
That'd be cool to see you bring that into your graffiti.
Yeah, I need to, man. I need to. I've actually been thinking about, I got a bunch of new ideas right now, and I need to incorporate them. I want to start doing more murals with my graffiti instead of just my piece, my name. So that's how it all pretty much started, And then I remember I was in 5th grade at the time, and Beach Street came out. And I remember seeing the movie Beach Street, and I think that was 83 or 84.
There was maybe. Beach Street, and then there was Downtown 81. Is that what that was called?
Yeah, I remember that one. And then there was also there was Wild Style, and but Beach Street was, growing up in Austin, Texas. Beach Street was like, released nationally, and so that was my first exposure to graffiti art on the subway.
Was it shot in Austin, or was it from New York?
No, it was shot out in New York. But when it was released in the theaters, we were all checking it out, and so that was the first time I saw the graffiti pieces on the subway.
Were you already doing graffiti then?
No.
Okay.
No. That was my first exposure, seeing it on the big screen, and me personally, I was always drawn to the pieces, the colorful names, and I I like the tags, I like the bubble letters, but for me, it was always the pieces. And so uh, Austin at that time was very different, and the only cats that were really doing graffiti were on the south and east side of town mainly. There was some on the north side, but mainly those two parts of town. And Austin was very divided back then. I-35, the interstate, is pretty much what separated west from east. And people of color were east, and Anglos were west, predominantly. And that's not to say that there wasn't a little bit of sprinkling on both sides, but mainly.
Mm-hmm.
And that was due to segregation back in 1928, 1929. They came up with a city plan which divided the people. And
redlining, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so the reason I bring this up is because graffiti art, came from the inner city. It came from the inner city. And so here in Austin, the majority of people that were doing graffiti back then were Latino. Later on, I would go and meet my mentor, Al Martinez, who wrote SCAM, S-K-A-M, Supreme King Al Martinez. That's what it stood for. And there were some African Americans, and there were a couple of, Anglos, but predominantly it was Latino, the first generation. So from all that, I got into skateboarding. And we skated ditches, pools, etc. When we would skate these ditches, I would see this graffiti, like on these walls. It was just like amazing productions, murals. By Scam and Kino, and I started to recognize names like Rage and Tanner and Scam. And I was like, yo, I want to learn how to do this. But I wasn't in that circle at the time. And it was really hard to break into that circle because I lived on the west side of town. And even though I went to school with a lot of them, with some of them, it was really hard to break into that circle. So I just kind of put it in the back of my head, one day, maybe I'll try it. And I got into skateboarding. Because skateboarding and graffiti and hip hop, kind of punk rock, all go hand in hand.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it wasn't long until I remember seeing the Power Peralta Rap Bones, Steve Caballero, for instance, tagging, which that style was based on LA gang style tags. Venice Beach, LA. And so I, naturally we tried to mimic it. Vato Rat, that tag, and that was where I first started tagging. And back then we had a team called Team Scum, because you had skate teams, right? Even though we weren't official teams, we were just like a posse. And so we became Team Scum, and we go tag out everywhere. And that was junior high, early high school. So I was probably around 13, 14 when I started tagging. But I still wanted to learn how to do graffiti art. So in 1990, I got a call from my mom who worked at the Dowdy Art Center. And she said, hey, there's this dude here named Al Martinez, and, he's doing a workshop. Are you interested? And I already knew who he was by that time.
You already knew?
Doing murals. Yeah, I already knew. I mean, he was doing murals around the city. So that was my first introduction to meeting Scam. From there, Scam showed me how to do a graffiti piece. He only showed me once. I mean, those guys came from the school of hard knocks. Nobody was teaching them. And
so
Scam
is that the same guy that you have on your Instagram? You got a picture of, like, it says, like, spraying with the OG.
Oh, that's Sec. He was another OG.
Okay.
Sec was another OG. Yeah. Sec and Scam used to paint together. So in 1990, I met Scam, and then by that time, Scam he wasn't doing the streets anymore. He had a kid, family, but he was doing a lot of commission work. And so he recruited me and my other friend, and we helped him. We prepped his walls, we carried his crates. He'd tell me, do this background, do this character, and I just did it. And that was my introduction to graffiti, was really from him. And so that was 1990, and in But see, I wanted to hit the streets. I was all about hitting the streets. You know, I mean, doing murals were cool and all, but I was like, nah, man, like.
It wasn't exciting, yeah?
It wasn't exciting. It was just like, yeah, you know, I was young, I had a lot of energy, and I liked the appeal of dressing up like a ninja at night and climbing rooftops and putting my name up and dodging the cops.
Yeah, yeah.
And then going back the next day, taking a picture, like, yeah, I painted that.
Yeah.
Now, back then, you didn't tell people you painted it because it was illegal. But you knew, and your friends knew who did it. And that's all that really mattered. I wanted some type of acceptance or notoriety amongst my peers. But at that time, graffiti art in Austin was dead. The gangbanging killed the first generation of Austin graffiti. So by the time I started, nobody was really doing graffiti art. They were tagging, but they weren't really doing graffiti art. And so in '92, I wound up in the Bay Area, San Francisco. And that's where I really got exposed to heavy-duty graffiti. You know, serious cats painting. And I studied. I mean, I painted a little bit, but, you know, I was a toy. I was a novice. So I studied. I took a lot of pictures. I drew a lot. And I developed my skill. In '94, I moved back to Austin, and I started a crew with Saint, a friend of mine, and we started No Boundaries crew, MBK. And we just celebrated our 26th year as a graffiti crew.
So what does it mean to start a crew? I mean, are we talking still passion and hobby now, or are we talking business?
Passion and hobby. I mean, basically a crew is really a collective of graffiti artists that come together to produce artwork and get the name up and work as a unit. And MBK put a big dent in the Texas scene. It influenced many, many people, and I'm proud of that. You know, we weren't setting out to do that at the time, but that's what happened. And so anyway, you know, '94 is when we started the crew, and you know, we're still at it. We just painted a mural this past weekend for what's going on here in the States with George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter. You know, it was our way of expressing our feelings towards the current situation. And because we felt as artists we need to make a statement, you know, just besides, we work with letters. And so, you know, things are a little crazy here in the States right now. Hell, they're crazy around the world, but as artists, you know, I don't really get involved in political art. It's not really my style. Yes, I have my feelings about what's going on, but I really felt like I had a duty to say something about what's going on here. And that's why we came together as a crew to do that.
Nice.
And, you know, it's basically the No Justice, No Peace mural. Okay?
So how did you transition into doing this as a living? I mean, that's something that's really interesting to me because graffiti art, I mean, like you said, there's a difference between tags and the actual pieces that go up. And man, it just looks so, like, you can tell that it's masterful, you know, like you can tell that on some of these pieces, like there's a lot of skill and technique that go into it. So I've always been fascinated by it, and I just love the style. I love the colors. I love the like wildness of it. I never got into it. I use spray paint on canvas a lot. You remember Kate, my wife Kate, she did some spray paint, but that was all also on canvas. But I guess I'm interested in like how it goes from you putting a piece up on a wall to something that you can use to sustain yourself financially.
Well, pardon me, I'm turning on the AC here. It's starting to warm up in here. Texas summers are a little brutal. You know, the long story of it, like I said, to make a long story short, I got arrested too many times for doing graffiti. And I got really tired of going to jail for graffiti.
What happens when you get arrested for graffiti? You get a fine, or is it just a standard fine, or what?
Well, not in the States. You know, they like to lock people up here. And the longest I did for graffiti was 3 months, and that was enough for me.
Damn.
Yeah, so
Was it
pretty
because
much what happened.
it was a multiple offense, or was it because?
Uh, I went to jail 3 times for graffiti. Once it was a multiple offense, but the time I did 3 months, that was for graffiti because over here they do it by the amount of property damage.
Oof.
Because it's vandalism, and so, and it's interesting because, not to sound like some saint or anything, but we had a code of the streets, man. Like, we didn't tag mom and pop stores, we didn't tag murals, we went after state property. We did freight trains, which is corporation. In other words, big companies. I did rooftops. We did freeways. We did freight trains. We did tunnels. We did, I get it that technically it's all vandalism, but we had a code of the streets. We had, believe it or not, we had some honor.
Yeah.
We weren't going to go tag your house. We weren't going to tag your car. I'm not saying those things never happen, but for the most part, there were general guidelines on where to get up. And so, but I got caught painting a tunnel the first time. I was at 18. The second time, I got caught doing a rooftop, a second story, and then the ground level, and a bike cop got me. He snuck up right behind me. And then the third time, I was painting by some railroad tracks. And so all of that, so by the third time that I was in jail, because all I would do in jail is draw graffiti anyway, And I was like, man, I'm getting older. Because at this time, I think I was 24, 27. And I was like, dude, you need to find a way to make this work. Because you're not going to stop painting graffiti.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, how it is, man. It's like, hey, quit doing art. Like, yeah, right. That's not going to happen. And so I got out of jail for the third time for graffiti. And I just was like, I got to make this work. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to get a portfolio together, and I'm going to start going to businesses that have prominent walls in good locations. I'm going to start asking, hey, man, can I do a mural? And that's how I started.
So did you start doing that just for the cost of supplies, or were they actually paying you at first?
The first couple times the cost of supplies, because I believe you got to pay your dues. I'd already paid my dues on the streets. I mean, I've been doing the streets for 12 years by that point. And I like the streets. I still do. But for me to get caught in my own city doing the streets is stupid. It's like they know where to find me. I mean, and another thing they told me was, if you get caught doing graffiti again, you're going to do a year flat in state jail. And I was like, that's a waste of time. So here's the reality, man.
Yeah.
For me, I love the streets, but the streets never paid my bills. Paid for my bills are art jobs. And I have my art and I have my art jobs. And for me, that's two different worlds. Sometimes I get paid to do my art for art jobs. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Every job is different. I mean, I just painted a Greek Orthodox mermaid holding a trident and a Sacred Heart yesterday. Like, that's not really my style.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a job, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
And I did it, and it was for a friend, and she loves it, and that's all that matters to me. If somebody can appreciate my art, that's the cherry on top. I do my art for me, I'll be honest. But I do public art, so it's not just for me. Mm-hmm. If the community can appreciate what I do, that is the cherry on top. I don't paint for the public, but the public is a good indicator whether you're good or not.
Yeah.
But you have to believe in yourself, and you have to keep growing. and you have to keep evolving, and you have to keep putting in the work. I know we live in an instant gratification society today, but you know, you never stop paying your dues. That's how I feel. I'm just speaking for me. Um, so the reason I say all that is I had to go put in the footwork, and the footwork meant walking on foot with my portfolio, knocking on businesses, asking them, "Can I paint your wall?" Most people said, "Get the heck out of here." You got to remember, this is late '90s. People were not interested in graffiti. You were labeled a gangster, a thug, or a criminal if you were painting, if you were doing graffiti. See, another thing you need to understand is back then, if you were using spray can as your medium, you did graffiti. Maybe you did a stencil, but really you did graffiti. And graffiti was looked down upon.
Well, let me ask you,
now,
this actually brings me to a question that I have, is that is this true? Is there like a beef with the word street art as opposed to graffiti? Like, what is the beef with that?
well, I look at it like this. Street art came from graffiti, okay? Basquiat was not a graffiti artist. Basquiat was a street artist. Yes, he tagged. Yes, he hung out with graffiti writers, but they were doing their own thing. You know, later Basquiat would become a painter. So to call Basquiat a graffiti artist when he was writing, scribbling random thoughts as Samo on the wall, no, because here's the thing, and people can debate this till the cows come home, but this is my experience. Graffiti art can mean a lot of things. Graffiti is generally the vandalism aspect, the tags, the bubble letters, the piecing, done illegally. Done illegally. That's what makes it graffiti. Okay. Then you have graffiti art, which could be more of the murals, it could be more of the painting legal walls, permission walls, okay? And then you have street art. In the beginning, street art would have been classified as stickers, wheat paste, stencils. Now street art has morphed more into muralism, okay? And what has happened is the public has caught on to using a spray can as medium. So now you have fine artists picking up spray cans and painting portraits and creating these nice works of art. So to answer your question, yes, there is definitely a big difference between graffiti and street art. It's kind of like the word hip hop. The media labeled it hip hop to include all four elements. Some say there's more elements of hip hop: the DJing, the rapping, the breakdancing, the graffiti. Okay. Street art is an umbrella term. Like, I'm not a street artist, even though people call me that sometimes. But like, I come from graffiti. I am a graffiti writer. I write my name. I'm a graffiti artist. These days, I just say I'm an artist. I don't want to get into labels. But I always say graffiti and street art is like skateboarding and rollerblading. They both roll, but they both do different tricks. And they both have different types of people that do it.
So let me ask you. Go ahead.
Street art has gone on with the public because it's more identifiable. People identify with portraits and icons more so than a stylized word or name. People tend to fear what they don't understand. But you gotta understand, graffiti, it's funny, graffiti is like, it wants to be in your face, it wants to shock you, but it just doesn't want you to know who painted it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, because I know Sloke One, so when I see your pieces, I can actually read it in there. But if I would have come up on that piece on the street, I can't read it. So
a lot of times, people, when they paint their name, maybe they don't want you to read it. If they want you to read it, they'll do basic letters. But graffiti, for me, is about style, and your style is a reflection of your personality. So why am I going to go paint something that's weak, or whack? Like, I don't, and there's a whole genre called anti-style. So, you know how humans
really?
You go in this one direction, you go in the opposite direction. Kind of like what's happening here in the States and with our government. But regardless, the thing is that, you know, I'm only sharing my experience with graffiti and what it means to me. And I was brought up on the old school traditions of graffiti, the customs and cultures, the customs and traditions of the culture, as opposed to now where it's like a business, you know. And I think I always say this: what was once underground is now mainstream, and that's what you're seeing now with graffiti and street art.
Yep.
You know, I mean, we got companies that make special cans for graffiti or street art. You know, it wasn't like that when I was starting. You only had Krylon and Rust-Oleum, and you better learn how to use it. And but you know, things evolve.
Yeah.
And sometimes street art and graffiti do cross over. Yes, but they do come from different cuts of the cloth.
So I guess the next question that I wanted to ask was about like because you started off doing murals, going around to these businesses and seeing if you can do some stuff on their wall. And after that started picking up, what things did you add from a business standpoint from there? Like, did you go right into merchandise, or did you branch out in a different direction?
Well, my first trade was a screen printer. I got into the screen printing industry when I was 16, and I worked in it from 16 to 32 years old. And so I did do a couple of shirts. I started to do flyers, the lettering for some local shows on flyers, like punk rock, not punk rock, but, well, yeah, kind of hardcore shows. I started doing some flyers. I started doing some T-shirts. I didn't really create a T-shirt line or anything, but I did a couple of designs. But mainly it was, you know, I for the longest time, I had a regular job. I worked 9 to 5 at a print shop, and I did my art on the side. And I did that for years.
Into your 30s, yeah.
Yeah, and then, you know, I kind of got burnt out on screen printing, you know. I didn't really want to own a shop, and, you know, I was like, you know, I've been doing this for, 16 years by that point. So I started to pursue my art. And I'm leaving out a whole part of my life, too. There's a reason why that was happening, but that's a different story. I used to live a crazy life, man. I used to live a really crazy life, and it's hard when you live in a crazy life to stay on a path. And so there was a lot of diversions and a lot of dead ends, and, you know, and I feel like I really started to get serious about my art as a career in around 2004. So a good 16 years now I've been doing it for a living.
So that was like that change. Let me ask you, that change that happened, like when you left the print shop, was that because that's right when things started to change in your life, or things started to turn around for you?
Yes. I left the print shop because I just felt like it was a dead end. I mean, I love screen printing. I love screen printing even to this day. It's not, I felt there was a higher calling, and that was to do my art. I didn't know how the hell I was going to do it. I didn't have anybody showing me how to become a professional artist. I mean, everything I've learned has pretty much been through trial and error. Sure, I could have probably researched more and saved a lot of time, but kind of a hard head. So I just did it my way. I had to create my own path. And that's really what I'm getting at when I say doing the footwork. You know, the failures, the successes. You know, I always say being an artist is like, it's like steak or ramen, man. Sometimes you're dining on some fine steak, and sometimes you're eating ramen, and I'm not talking about the expensive ramen either.
Yeah.
You know, the trials and tribulations of being an artist, man. I've lost relationships. I've lost friends.
Because of the ups and downs of the financial
because
situation?
Of the ups and downs. And also, you know, for me, man, like, I've gone through periods in my life where that's all I was doing, man. I was driven. And you know, and that has, anything in excess has consequences.
Yeah.
And for me, the excess was my determination and drive. And this is one thing, and I'm only speaking for me, by the way. I know being an artist is different for everybody. It's like being a human is different for everybody. But here's the thing. In 2006, from 2006 to 2016. Good 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I did it. I started a mural company. I traveled the world. I did art shows. I did tours. I did this. I did that. Blah, blah, blah. I was continuing to create my resume. And I achieved the goals that I set out to do. Get a home. Get a car. Get a work truck. Travel the world. You know, I still got a lot of places I need to go. But regardless, get a show in Europe. And all of those are great, wonderful things. In other words, I was chasing the fame and the money. These days, I'd rather have the money. But all of that stuff, it's all good, and I'm proud of those accomplishments. But it did not satisfy my inner self, if that makes sense.
Yep.
All of that stuff was external.
It's all ego. They're all ego
Right.
goals.
You know, get the house, check. Get the car, check. Get the pretty girl, check. Get the bank account, check. You know, all the stuff that growing up in the United States you're taught or pushed upon you to get. And I got all that. Let me tell you, man, I felt empty.
Yeah,
And I hit a bottom.
you feel even more empty because the expectation was there that you would feel full.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I hit an emotional bottom, and I had to go back to my roots, which was graffiti. And I had to remember, because here's the point, it was no longer fun anymore. It was work, you know? And my art, my personal art, was suffering. I was chasing these things because I thought once I get these things, I'll be secure in my life. And I really kind of, around 2016, 2017, man, I kind of hit a bottom. And I was like, dude, I'm fucking burned. I've been grinding nonstop for 10 years. And then where I live, there was this big explosion of street art
Austin.
in Austin. And like I said, I'm not a street artist, and so I started watching, because, you know, things change. I started watching a lot of my market disappear because my style was no longer in.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you change and you adapt. But here's the thing, like, I've never been the kind of artist that's like, hey, look at me, I use spray paint, woohoo, hey, like, nah, man, like, you let your art speak for yourself. And I've been able to make a living off my art through my hard work and word of mouth and my reputation. And reputation will always precede you. I mean, you can fake the funk all you want online, but if you can't show up to a job and get it done with skill, you know, good luck. Good luck making it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but you got to remember, by the time all this stuff got popular with the public, man, we already been doing this for 15 to 17 years. So it was kind of like, next, you know, because for me, it's always been like that. Like, always, I feel like in my city, I mean, I'm also older than a lot of these artists, younger artists, but I was already doing that stuff 5 to 10 years ago. So by the time the public caught up, I was like, I'm on to the next thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever that may be, I don't know what it is. But let's face it, if you want to make a living being an artist, you have to deal with the public.
So you had to pull it back in some cases.
That support you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you
yeah.
Take care of the people that support you.
So you had to pull it back. You mean you had to like kind of cater a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. You know, I mean, I'm a people person, man. I'm also kind of an introvert at times too. I'm a little bit of both, but I don't do the song and dance, man. I don't you know, paint monkey paint. I don't do that stuff. You know, it's like I'm not here for your enjoyment. You know, I'm here to create art. And if you like it, cool. If you don't, I don't really care.
You know, I wanted to. That brings me to this. I wanted to make this shirt and wear it on the bridge when I did caricatures on Charles Bridge, and the shirt would just say, "I'm not here to make you happy. I'm here to make good art."
Amen. That's what I'm talking about.
But you know what, man? The thing is like you had that friend that, you know, she wanted the what was the Aqua Pegasus thing or whatever she wanted painted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes there is like a line there, I think, where you know, bills have to be paid. I don't know I don't know if you should respect that line at all, or I don't know.
I look at it like this for me, and this goes back to your original question with the transition of doing it for a living. If you come to me and you want to hire me to do if you want art from me, let's say a mural, you call me up, I give you a bid, we agree, I get a deposit check, get the contract signed. I'm providing you a service, and I need to fulfill that service. Okay?
Okay.
To me, that's an art job. Okay? So yes, there is a balance. You want this, and you like my style. So I have to take my style and what you want and come together as one.
Yeah.
Okay? To me, that's a successful art job. And I leave happy, you leave happy. Granted, every client's different. So, that being said, there does need to be a balance. But I'm not here for your amusement. Like, I'm here to do a job. Now, when it comes to my canvas work, for instance, if you want to buy my canvas, great. I appreciate that. But that's already painted. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're already buying something that's already been created. That's different. Still to this day, my favorite thing to do is get together, either by myself or with a group of friends, and go paint a wall. No crowd, no camera, no public, just me and my friends. And we don't even really talk that much when we're painting, but we're all together creating in unity, you know, like together. I get in that zone, and even to this day, man, like that's my favorite thing to do. That and travel. I love traveling and doing that with artists from other countries.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, it's
next time you come to Prague, man, I want to pick up a can and put something together. Give me a little bit of notice, and I'll draw something up.
Yeah, I'm hoping to be out there in September. I don't know yet, man. I'm trying to get things together on my end, but I'll definitely hit you up. I miss Prague, man. I love it out there. But what I'm trying to say is like these days, it's kind of a balance. It's like when it comes to my personal art, I'm painting for me, you know. But if I'm doing a job, I'm painting for you too.
Yeah.
And so it is a balance for me. And I think one thing that like I'll speak on here in Austin. A lot of times artists screw themselves, and they allow the public to dictate prices, and they allow the public to dictate what's in or what's not.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big mistake.
Yeah, we're the style makers.
That's right. You owe it to yourself to take some business classes or research, learn basic business, learn how to pay your taxes, and most importantly, value yourself and your art. But you can't be expecting a $10,000 job when you just started last week, you know? And I know that we're in this instant gratification society, but you can't fake style and you can't fake skill and you can't fake experience. And that just comes with time.
Yeah.
I always tell a lot of these younger artists, man, if you're getting into this for fame and money, keep your day job, you know?
Yeah.
And if you're doing this for the public, good luck, because the public will eat you up and chew you out.
Yeah.
You got to have the heart, and you got to do it for yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Because that, to me, man, like, art means so many things to me. And if the public can enjoy what I do, that's just a blessing.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's like any other thing. You have to develop. Like, I always use this analogy. I'm not a musician. I love music. I respect musicians. But if I want to learn how to play the guitar, one, I need to get a guitar. Two, I need to learn some chords. And three, I need to practice. But by doing that, that does not allow me to get on stage and you know, that doesn't allow me to get on stage yet. You know, like I still have to put in the work.
Yeah.
You have to put in the work. And I think that's what's lacking in a lot of things these days is you can't go from 0 to 10,000 hours overnight.
Yeah, man. This is I just actually came out with a video on this about, it was a short reading and description from this book called Mastery by George Leonard. You hear about that book, Mastery?
I have.
Oh, it's great, man. But anyway, he breaks down the 3 types of people, like a dabbler, like people who just get into it, get excited, and then realize that it's going to take a lot of work, and then they drop out and then try something else. Then there's like the obsessive guy who like tries it, realizes it's a lot of work, and instead of like just staying on the path, tries to push it and push it and push it, and then burns himself out. And then there's the hacker, which is like the person who gets just good enough and then just is comfortable staying there for the rest of his life. But they talk about the path of mastery being basically like a lot of work, a little bump, and then you get back on a plateau just a little bit higher, and you keep going and going and going and going and going, and then you get a little bump up, and then you go.
Yep.
And that's what it is, man. It's like 90 to 95% of the time, it's a plateau. You're on that plateau. You just got to grind and grind and grind and grind, and then eventually you see a little bump.
Yep.
And
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like for me personally, and a lot of it I think is just with other things in my life right now, but I'm never satisfied with what I paint. I'm not. I mean, that doesn't mean I don't have some favorite pieces or paintings that I've done. That doesn't mean that. But there's no plateaus for me. Like, you don't get to a level and you get to look down. I mean, you can be proud of your accomplishments, but I always say I'm only as good as my last piece.
Yeah.
You know, meaning there's so much more to learn out there.
Yeah.
You know, it's endless. And I think that's what keeps me going, is that drive to want to get better. For me, it's not about being the best. It's just about getting better. And the only way I'm going to get better is by painting and by drawing and researching. And, of course, self-care comes into that too. But it's the actual act of painting. And I love painting, man. I mean, I never thought that I'd still be doing this, you know, painting my name 30 years later. And it's not about how long I've been painting or any of that stuff. But I do believe with time comes experience. And as long as I keep putting one foot in front of the other, because, hey, man, I've had some rough patches. I mean, 2016 to 2019, like beginning of 2019, man, I had 3 years, dude. I was living on ramen, man. I mean, I was like, damn, dude, like maybe I need to go get a day job, like something. But you keep at it.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking from me and my experience. But I believe if you truly have the heart for anything, and you put in the work, and you want to get to where you're going, and that's another important thing. Watch how you get to where you're going, because that's how you're going to be remembered. You're going to be remembered how you treated people. You know, not being the famous rock star, but how you got there.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to be remembered. You know, what's that old saying? On your way to the top, be careful how you treat people around you, and it's true. It's like, there's nothing wrong with pursuing your passion, but there's times in my pursuit where it was dark. It was dark, man. There wasn't no jobs coming in, you know, and I was like, you just got to keep at it. And then last year, 2019, man, I had more work than I had in a long time. And then the COVID hit, and the bottom fell out.
Yep.
And I was like, look, man, if you've ever been to jail, or you've ever overcome a major hurdle in your life, you can get through this quarantine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Man, that
you can get through this quarantine.
jail cell experience for me was, I really value that experience because, man, I was never as grateful to sleep in my own bed than after that. You know, I was like, that was a real good nugget of gratitude for me. Man, I want to talk to you so much more. I want to talk to you about flow state and all of that because I think that's really interesting. But we haven't looked at any of your artwork yet, and we're already almost an hour in. So let's talk a little bit about flow, and then maybe we can spend a little time just looking at some work.
Sure.
I pulled a lot of this stuff off from your Instagram, so if while we're talking about flow you want to pull that up, you might be able to reference some of it. But I went all the way back, and you got like 1,800 posts. So, but yeah, man, what you were talking about when you were talking about love painting, there's these times that happen when I'm drawing or painting that, especially like when I'm in front of people, that everything just shuts off. You know, and that's what they were talking about in that mastery book. It's like you reach a point in your skill level where you aren't thinking about it. you've done it so much that you have that skill built into you. It is a part of you now. And what happens is like the thinking mind shuts down and you're just in this state where like you almost disappear and you're just like it's sort of like, this is my experience, like it takes me over, you know, and it is the best feeling, man. It's like the best high out of any drug like that I've had. And I only am able to hit that sometimes, but I could do it I could get into that state a couple of times a week if I'm like drawing every day and I'm working a lot, I got a lot of customers. I can go into that state and it's like such a freedom, you know? And I don't know if you had that experience, but it seems like the way you paint, the way you talk about painting, like things shut off for you and you just kind of like become the paint.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. I can relate. There are times, I'd say in the last 3-4 years where, I mean, you summed it up. Like I like to not think when I paint anymore. Now, sometimes I overthink it and I try to control the process, and it's not as fun. For instance, about 6 months ago, I went out and I did a canvas in my backyard because my studio is at my house, and man, it just came out. And I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
And it was one of the better canvases I've done in quite a while. So I know exactly what you're talking about. For me, painting is like my meditation, man. A lot of it, you know, it's interesting. Like I tend to freestyle most of my art, like my pieces. Actually, most of my art in general. Sometimes I do sketch and doodle, but a lot of times when I go to a wall, I freestyle. It's off the top of my head. And once I get that sketch down, which sometimes can look really messy, but that's fine. I always say it's like I make a mess and then I create something out of it. It becomes its own thing, if that makes sense. Like here's your sketch, right? Here's your blueprint. Mm-hmm. By the time I'm done, man, it might have gone through several transformations. Yeah. You know, and I love that. I love that because for me, I don't want to feel contained when I paint. That's probably why I love abstract so much. Mm-hmm. Because for a long time, I've done canvases before, but I always felt contained by canvases. You know, just the shape. Yeah. That's why I gravitated towards walls and large and graffiti.
Yeah. I feel the same way.
So when I got into abstract about 8 years ago, I didn't feel contained. I didn't care if the paint went off the sides of the canvas. That's why a lot of my canvas work, it looks like explosions. And I like color and movement. And to me, that's what my abstract represents, and also my graffiti art. And so the best, like these days, I try not to think. I just try not to think too much. I mean, of course you have to think a little bit, but in other words, you let the process take over. Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah. Because it's not so much about the end result for me anymore. I mean, it is and it isn't. Like, I want my stuff to look good for me, but it's the experience. It's the process. And that is what I really love about painting. I mean, it's like, man, I can get into a painting, man. Like I paint with some guys and they want to BS and joke around. That's cool, but I don't really want to talk. Yeah. Why? Because I'm in the zone. Yeah. And a lot of people are like, oh, what's going on? How come? I said, dude, like I'm concentrating. Because if I break my concentration, it might go in a whole other direction when I restart the painting. Yeah. That's why a lot of times I get my paintings done in a day, you know. Because if I go back the next day, man, my brain's somewhere else. Yeah,
exactly. How long does it take you?
For everybody, but what's that?
How long does it take you?
An average piece will probably take me about 4 hours.
All right, this is a good time. This is a good time to look at it.
And how many colors, but yeah, I'd say about 4 hours.
Let's pull this up. I'm gonna move you over a little bit. Oh, I can't move you over. Shit. All right, I'm just gonna move the screen because I'm doing a screen recording now, so I'll just pull it over. Could you get your head to It doesn't matter, man. It's not. I'm gonna
I
have to.
got my Instagram pulled up
All right,
on my
cool,
laptop.
cool. There's so many pieces, man. You just like your wild style is like, dude. I couldn't even choose. Like I just had to choose some random ones, just like whatever caught my eye. One that caught my eye is one that was like a little bit different than your usual style. It's it looks like a bunch of different kinds of letters.
Uh-huh.
You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah, like different fonts and different styles.
Yeah, but this one looks like it says U. It starts with a Y. You got one in here that says
Oh,
slope.
it says U. Is it YOU?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, that was from a while ago. Yep.
man. Well, what was up with that one? Was that a challenge you put on yourself or?
No, that was actually a commission job. The client wanted the word "you." It was in a fitness gym,
That's
and
tight.
at that time, I call that style a mashup style because that's what it is. It's a mashup of different styles, and I have a lot of fun with those because I never know how they're going to turn out.
Yeah.
And I think that was what 2016 maybe. So about 4 years ago, I started doing that style.
Mm.
And see, that's another thing I want to talk about real quick. The style, like everybody's different with style. Like for me, I think it's good to have many styles. It's good to be flexible, and that example, the U piece, is one of them. And the thing about those is like it's almost more graphic design. Like if you look at some of the other ones that I've done in that style, it's almost more graphic design, and it's really it's letter play, it's font play. I like to mix some fonts in with some graffiti letters, and they're fun. They're fun. Compared to some of my other styles that might be a little more aggressive or abstract.
Uh-huh.
And so whenever I paint those, I end up in a really good mood because they're colorful.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
colorful, and I like switching it up, and I think that's really, like I said, once again back to the abstract, is I don't want to feel contained. I don't even want to feel contained within a line. Sometimes I do very classic traditional graffiti, but if you look at some of my abstract graffiti letters, the colors inside the letters are bursting out.
Well, actually, that's perfect timing because this next piece that you're talking about, the colors bursting out, is you got it on a black wall and it's like magenta line work, and then it looks like a nebulous. It's like it looks like it's in space. That one is so fucking awesome, man. Like this is a topic that I've been doing lately with like environmental design. I'm taking a class right now, and one of the themes that I'm really attracted to is that like glowing kind of nebulous lighting. I don't know if you know which one I'm talking about. It's got magenta line work and it's got yellow form, and then it's like it looks like it's smoking and kind of.
Oh yep. I think I see the one you're talking about. Yeah, man, I always call those those started out. Those are basically hollows. You start with the black background, so it reminds me of the galaxy. And they're a lot of fun, man. I'm actually going to do something similar next week. I'm doing collaboration. That's another thing. I like to collaborate with other artists, and I'm doing a collaboration with a local artist, and he wants me to do the lettering for the mural. And so those are a lot of fun. I call them hollows, man, because that's pretty much what they are. They're hollows. It's almost like a transparent. The fill inside the letters is almost transparent because I like stuff to bleed out of the outline.
Yeah.
And those are a lot of fun to do, man. I started doing those probably about five years ago.
That effect is
That's the thing, man. I'm never satisfied with style, man. It's like this endless style quest.
Yeah. Well, do you look at other people? I mean, are you comparing your style with others a lot? Or are you just exploring your own? And like, do you see? Because for me, what I do is like I see because I'm friends with some pretty radical caricaturists, you know, so I see their stuff and I'm like, man, I want to draw in that style. So I'll try and I'll try to implement that. And then like a week later, I'm like, nah, I like this guy more, you know, so I'll like move over there.
Sure, sure. The way I was brought up in graffiti is like, you know, we're all influenced by each other, whether we admit it or not. It's kind of hard, you know, to not be influenced by other artists. The way that I operate is if I'm attracted to a style, I might mimic it, but I add my own style to it.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what elevates that style. Is when the next person comes in and brings their touch to it.
Right.
I'm not going to take a style and completely copy it because that's called biting. That's like plagiarism. You know?
Yeah.
Copy and paste. And a lot of times, like I'll see a style. Like my friend Nudes, I just painted with him this weekend. He's got this kind of almost. He's got a really interesting style. He's dope. I like the style a lot, and I might take elements of his style, but I'm going to add my style to it, and then create a new style. And that's what keeps style going. If we were all doing the same stuff, it would be boring. Like, you know, my mentor was like, "Why do you want to be a carbon copy?" Now, I understand in the beginning there's basic blueprints to mimic, but those blueprints are there for you to develop your own style.
Yeah.
And style is developed by putting in practice and work.
Hey, let me
yes,
ask you.
I am influenced, but I have my own style.
Could you turn your camera a little bit to the right? All right, no, to the left. To the left.
Like here?
I'll wait till you get stable.
Yeah, I'm holding there. How about right there?
No, a little bit more. Right there.
Okay.
Yeah, inch it back just a bit. That's perfect. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty much the same way. I read the book Steal Like an Artist, but you know, basically the thesis of that book is like, you know, you're combining like people that you like into your own. I mean, it doesn't matter how hard I try to implement like a style. Like, it doesn't matter how hard I try to copy it. Like, there's always my own kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, what I do is I just try my very best to copy the style. It never looks exactly like theirs anyway. And then once I get comfortable with those lines or with like the way that shape goes or that composition, then I usually switch over to somebody else that I'm interested in. And that's kind of built on my personal style. But I want to move over here because I got a collection of paintings that you did like on things that you would normally not see spray paint on.
Yeah.
So you got, I'll pull up the first one here, is a house. So what happened with this?
Yeah, so that was about 2 years ago, I think. This guy I know, he made a studio. He's a jeweler.
Oh.
And he bought a house and remodeled it and turned it into studios. And he said, "I want you to come paint my house. I want you to do graffiti." And I said, I went and looked at it and I said, "No, man, I think it'd be better with more." I call them graphic design murals. Really abstract, but a lot of straight lines.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the siding of the house, everything's horizontal. And the front's a little modern. It's not super modern, but
I like the house. I like the architecture.
Yeah, the house is beautiful. Yeah, it's an old house that they remodeled. A lot of times when, in this case, that job, I studied the angles and the structure of the house before I came up with design. Mm-hmm. Because to me, there needs to be some type of unity. Now, sometimes I will do shock value art. Because to me, that's what graffiti is. Graffiti can be shock value. But in terms of a house, I wanted it to be in unity with the structure. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I came up with that. And that was a really fun job. I actually ran into him at the store about 2 weeks ago, and I said, "Hey, man, when you're ready to wrap the design around, let me know." But, you know, most artists I know right now during this pandemic, you know, they're just trying to survive. Mm-hmm. You know, I think we got 14.7 unemployment, 14.7% unemployment in the nation right now.
Damn.
Yeah, yeah. Times are tough for a lot of people, unless you're. I mean, I've been doing whatever I have to do. You know, hell, I even did some house painting. You know, I'm
Yeah.
not afraid to work, man. I was raised. I grew up poor. I mean, you want something, you work for it. And
Yeah.
so, you know, the reason I say all that is that it's going to get better eventually. You know, I think it might get a little worse before it gets better. But the main thing is to stay focused and stay positive and be grateful and keep doing your art.
Right.
Because I've been through rough patches before, man. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, this 2020 has been pretty rough on me, but I know it'll get better. It'll get
Yeah.
better. And so when I run into clients and I tell them that, you know, I'm not worried about it. You know, if he reaches out and wants me to wrap around it, because personally, if you look at that photo, I can just picture the whole other side wrapped like that.
Yeah.
Because that's the site you see. The right side of the house you don't see. There's bushes and stuff. But the left side you can see it from the road. And to me, I'm all about angles and perspective.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
I'm doing that style of art.
Okay, so
And-
here's some shoes we got.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about your last name too, because you got some shoes from Nordstrom up here. Your last name, that is your last name, right? Nordstrom?
Yeah.
I'm guessing you're not part of that family dynasty, huh?
I'll tell you what, if I was related to the Nordstroms, I'd be doing pretty good right now.
So this is pretty cool. Did they commission you
I don't know,
to?
maybe I am. Maybe I'm the long lost cousin. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is a good time to find out. So yeah. Sorry, my light is failing now. I gotta change the lighting. So did they commission you to do that for a line, or was that just something you did for a customer, like a commission?
So Nordstrom's contacted me about, what was it, 3 years ago? 2 years ago? Almost 3 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me several styles of their shoes to customize.
Nice.
And that led to, I wound up customizing, I think, like 90 pairs of shoes.
Whoa.
It was wild.
So now
I
this
had,
is
like,
right on
factory
leather?
inside my house. What's that?
This is directly on the leather?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
did you seal it with anything?
Yeah, I used a clear coat. You know, it's best to use acrylic if you're doing shoes. You don't want to use regular enamel spray paint because it'll crack.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I probably spent more time prepping those shoes than actually painting.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, I did shoes for a while, and I really like shoes. I think they're cool. I've done a couple things with Nordstrom since then. They've been good to me. But then later, through that, I met a local shoe designer, and we started collaborating. And we started from scratch. I mean, she cut the leather. The soles were already pre-made, but that was the only thing pre-made. So we were building shoes from scratch.
Mm.
And they were more like, kind of like Chuck Taylor
Mm-hmm.
Converse high tops.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would paint directly on the leather, and I really enjoyed that. That's been fun. Unfortunately, she's moving to LA. I can keep doing that. I like shoes, I really do. Put it this way: if paint can adhere to it, I can do it. I've done it. I like cars. I like painting cars. I'm painting expensive Hermes handbags.
Man,
You know, it's like
I got a car pulled up right now.
Creative. You got to get creative, man.
I got one pulled up right now, actually, a car. This looks like a Ford
that was a fun
Focus or something.
Is it in the picture? Is it in a parking lot?
Yeah, it's in a parking lot, and it's like a hatchback, or it looks like.
I think that might be the Honda Accord.
Yeah, that's pretty rare. It's that.
Yeah, that was real fun, man. I'm going to do something hopefully soon that's very similar to that. I had somebody contact me about doing a car. So
Same thing, just
I like
enamel paint.
Yeah, it's all regular spray paint.
And then you put a clear coat on it?
Yeah, then you put a clear coat on. The best way, of course, to do it is to strip it down and then prime it and then paint it and then clear coat it. But yeah, I like to branch out, man. I've been doing walls and trains and stuff for a long time, and I love that. But you got to get creative, especially in a time like this. I always say this. Now is the time to get creative about how to continue making a living being an artist. And a lot of that seems to be online now. You got to have a product that people want.
Well, let's talk about that. So I did want to ask you if you have like an online store or if you're doing any kind of like live streaming spray paint stuff. Like, let's talk about that. Like, how have you adapted?
I've had a store for a while. If you go to my website, slokeone.com, SLOKEONE.com.
Yeah, that'll be in the show notes, by the way.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have some limited edition T-shirts that I did. I have, to tell you the truth, I've sold most of my stuff on my store. I need to produce some new inventory. You'll see my canvas work.
What are you using on your store? Like, what store do you have? Are you using Shopify? Or are you using?
Yeah. I use Shopify. I've been happy with them, man. The customer service has been really great. Canadians are really nice. And,
yeah, they are. Yeah.
Very polite. And,
I use Shopify as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I got contacted by an art teacher out in the Bay Area, friend of a friend, and I did a Zoom meeting. I did an online art demo, and
nice.
Hopefully that will take off. But man, it was easy, man. I talked to all the students, man. It was high school, and I like doing that, man. Like I teach graffiti as art. These days I'm about the youth, man. You got to pass it on to the youth.
Yeah.
If you want these art forms to survive, you have to pass it on. And a lot of these younger kids, man, they're savvy, man. They're tech savvy, they're business savvy. In my city, it seems to have gone more as a business now. I think art has transitioned more into a business, and that's fine. We all got to eat, and you got to adapt. You got to change. You got to adapt. But more importantly, I still got to do it for me. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's really where my that's what calms me. That's what gives me some peace and some serenity. Is painting for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I got a friend of mine, that mermaid I painted. She was really happy with the end product. Now she wants me to paint a jackalope. That's a rabbit with
I know what a jackalope is.
yeah. It's like it's not normally what I do, but I'm looking forward to it. And the fact that she wants me to come back, that's a blessing. And I think it's interesting because, let's face it, we're in the line of work where sometimes there's not a lot of repeat customers. They contact me to get a job done, I get it done, and then that's it. So to have somebody that calls me back, that's a plus. And like I said, I'm always grateful for the people that support me. And I have to support them. It's a two-way street. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One way for me to give back is for the youth.
I love that.
It on to the youth.
Yeah, that is our responsibility as we get older, is to pass it on and pass on the knowledge to the youth. Yeah, that's the repeat customers. That's such a great self-esteem booster, or it's such a or a validation. I guess it depends on who you are, but for me, when they come back year after year, that's so awesome, because also for me, my skills get better every year. So, I always ask them, let me see the drawing I did last time, and I'm like, oh, damn.
I know.
Yeah, even the one that you have up on your Instagram page, I was like, oh, shit, man. I thought it was okay at the time, but now it's I see all the mistakes. So, but that's...
Hey, I think it was great.
Yeah.
You did a great job.
I'm glad you like it.
I appreciate it. That was very nice of you, man. That was, like I said, I posted that on my Instagram, man. You caught me well.
Thanks, man.
Got that shine head.
Yeah. So we're 1 hour and 20 minutes in, so if you want to start wrapping it up, we can. Why don't we talk about how people can find you? Is Sloke One, is it Sloke and then the number one, or the word one?
It's the word one. You can find me. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, my website. That's Sloke One, SLOKEONE. And yeah,
And then
things are good, man.
your Instagram?
My Instagram is Sloke One word.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that I'll have that all. I'll put all that stuff in there. I'll put a link to your page and all that stuff in the show notes.
Yeah, man. Things are good. I worked really hard in 2019. I was hoping to be out in Europe right now, but due to the pandemic, I'm hoping I get out there in September. I'm getting ready to hit the road. It may not be the best time to do it, but I'm ready to get out of Austin for a couple weeks. I'm going to go to California. I'm going to paint with some friends in LA in the Bay Area. Go see family up there. My mom lives out there now. Just gonna hit the road, man. You got to keep living, man. And creating art for me is part of that. I get depressed if I don't create art.
Right.
And I mean, I have my moments like anybody where I was kind of, like I said, March and April were tough, and then I hit this point. I was like, dude, you need to go create. Like, it is what it is. Get to this place of acceptance, and then okay, they say life on life's terms, right?
Right.
Doesn't mean it's always going to be pretty. And I know these are tough times for a lot of people, but I think the main thing is to not give up and to keep putting one foot in front of the other, And, I was telling my sister this the other day. I was like, this has just shown me who's really in control of the universe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you got to take care of yourself, mentally, physically, spiritually right now, because, well, you should anyway, but especially right now, and creating art for me is a big part of that. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have art. I mean, art has really saved my life in a lot of ways. It's given me a purpose, a drive, a passion, to be able to help other people with it. And there's so much more to learn. Like I said, it doesn't really matter how long I've been painting. I mean, I'm grateful that I've persevered through all these years, but there's so much more to learn.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'll be in, God willing, I'll be in a wheelchair painting walls. You know what I mean? When I'm 80.
Hey, by the way, there was a guy that got paralyzed and he was a graffiti artist and his buddies set up this thing where they tracked his eye movements. And then he was able to paint with light somehow, with lasers on the side of this building. You heard that story?
Yeah, that's Tim Tuan. He's a famous graffiti writer out of LA. I've seen the documentary. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. Yeah, I think it's amazing that all of that has occurred. Art is powerful. It's powerful. And I think the main thing is to not give up. And being an artist, I think, is tough. It's like being a musician. You got to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. I think, like I said, the main thing is to not give up. When I've gone through those dark periods in my life where the jobs weren't coming in, and I was living off of my savings, or I was living off scraps. You got to produce, like right now. I got blessed with another job today. The budget's small, but it's for my friend. I don't care. I mean, the fact that he wants me to come in and do it, he's struggling too.
Yeah.
It's not always about the money, man. I mean, the money helps, but for me, if I can put a smile on somebody's face in my art, it's good.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that.
That's a good place to leave it, man. Thank you for your time. Thanks for sitting with me. It was cool to talk to you again after a couple years, and I just love it, man. I love the style. I love everything that you're doing. We unfortunately didn't get a chance to talk about this paint by numbers Guinness Book World Record thing, but maybe next time.
I still got some time. I can talk about that.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about that. Is that your one and only Guinness Book World Record?
Yeah, hopefully it'll be more. So I got contacted about 3 years ago by Schlotzsky's. Schlotzsky's is a sandwich company here in the States that started in Austin, Texas back in the 70s, and they now have franchises and stuff, corporation. And they hit me up and they said, hey, we're looking for a local artist to do a mural. We're doing a rebrand, and we want to paint a mural at this one location. And so they hired me, and they said, we're going to try to break the Guinness Book world's record for most participants in a paint by numbers mural.
What a weird idea for a sandwich shop.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, good publicity, I guess.
Yeah.
And man, I'm gonna tell you, man, that was a little tough. So that to be able to do, I think I had like 5,000 numbers up there, and on the mural, and the previous record was held by a group of people in Hong Kong, and I think it was, I don't know, 2,500, 3,000 people. And they did that in a football field. I was doing this on a 15 by 15 wall. So these were tiny sections of the mural. And so I had to grid it out and everything. And so that same weekend, they were having Austin City Limits Music Festival. And so what they were doing is, as people were leaving or going to and from the festival, they were trying to get people over to paint a section of the mural, a number. And they had the official judge there, and it was over, I think it was over a weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And we had a set amount of time to make that happen, because it ended like Sunday at 5 p.m. And we broke it. And we wouldn't have broke it if it wasn't for the community of Austin, Texas, you know.
Yeah.
What I did is I designed the mural, and I painted a square, and the community did the rest. So really, if anybody deserves that Guinness Book of World Records, it's really the community of Austin, Texas.
Nice.
Because that's what made it happen. And that's why I think it's so important to give back to the community, because we're all on this planet together, you know. And it's just really, it was a cool experience, and much thanks to Slotsky's, because good people, man. They've been a really good client to work with, and they're supportive of the arts. And I think that's the important thing too. You know, back to what we were talking about, is artists. You know, as art becomes more popular here in the States, I think it's really important to forge these relationships with these companies, because art is powerful and it does speak to the community. And just as people are out there protesting right now, you know, artists are putting up murals about what's going on, and I think it makes a powerful statement. You know, I always say I'd rather see color on a wall than a blank wall.
Yeah, yeah.
No matter what it is. So, you know, it was a really cool experience. It's an honor. They sent me a little plaque. I have it hanging in my studio.
Nice.
It was a good experience, and you know, there's so much more I could add to all that. I mean, that's the beauty of art, doing art for a living. It's like the experiences I've had, the people I've met, the countries I've traveled to. Art can be used to really heal a lot.
Yeah.
You know, but very cool.
Cool, man. Thanks, man. It's awesome to talk to you. Really great
You
talk.
too, buddy.
Yeah, it was great. It was good, for real. Thanks for
your art's looking amazing.
Thanks.
Looking amazing, man. Keep it up, brother.
Oh, cool. You're following me, huh? You see my updates coming up?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll let you know if I'm out that way in September. Good to see you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Cool.
Stay safe out there, buddy.
All right, Nathan. Have a good one, man.
Take care.
Cheers.